When it comes to explosive performance, one metric is going to say a lot. This is going to be the Reactive Strength Index, also known as RSI. So kind of what RSI is exactly looking at last video. It's how well our body can absorb force and then reapply it. So basically how reactive our muscles and tendons are. Think of it like this. Every jump, sprint, change of direction starts with force going into the ground and then back out. So RSI is going to tell us how efficient that exchange is. Something one of my coaches said that has always stuck with me, first as an athlete and now as a coach. He said, picture your tendons like rubber bands. So we want our tendons to be springy and reactive, stretching fast and snapping right back with power. That's what's going to give you that pop off the ground, that quick burst, that effortless bounce. But when you stop training them right, they turn into those old rubber bands that are stiff, slow, and sluggish. So kind of like my jumps, unfortunately. But no, we're getting better over time. But now, every time I train or coach, I think about that. I want my athletes to move like brand new rubber bands that are explosive and elastic. So the equation for RSI is really simple. It's jump height divided by ground reaction time. So if we can get off the ground faster without losing height, our RSI is going to go up. And that's what makes athletes look so springy, powerful, and effortless. In other words, RSI is your body's reactivity score. It's going to tell you how fast you can turn stored energy into movement. One more analogy I love as well is using a basketball, for example. So the faster and higher it bounces back, the more reactive it is. So RSI is the same idea, showing how well your body can load, spring, and explode back into motion. So the quicker and higher that basketball rebounds off the floor, the more reactive it is. Okay, so now we know what RSI is all about. Let's break it down with my own jumps. So in this session, my RSI mod came in at 0.63, which is solid. That's a quick reactive jump. As I continue to jump, my RSI mod dropped a little bit. It could mean I spent a longer time on the ground, jumped from a slower load, or maybe just I fatigued throughout the jumps. So jump 1 was obviously my strongest jump. You can tell right away, quick off the ground, smooth transition, and a solid push off. Everything really clicked right here. Force came in fast and came out fast, just like a new rubber band snapping back with power. So looking at jump 3, notice my start point and my end point from where I take off and land. This one's the clear breakdown. My hips shoot forward, center of mass is way over my toes, and I lose that tension through that posterior chain. So this is just basic strength conditioning fundamentals. So whenever squat we do, whenever jump we do, the center of mass should stay over the midfoot throughout the jump or squat. So as my jumps go on, you can see me start to lose that pattern. My hips shift forward, knees drift past my toes, and I start relying too much on my quads. When that happens, my center of mass moves forward, my hamstrings stop doing their job, and all that elastic energy just disappears. So by jump 3, I'm basically just jumping without my hamstrings. There's no tension pulling me back or loading that spring. So instead of storing and releasing force, I'm just pushing. That's why the jump loses that pop and the RSI takes a hit. Also, take into account the shoes I'm wearing. They're very cushioned shoes, and they're great for comfort and distance running, but they're not so great for jumping and testing RSI. So the thick foam is actually going to absorb the force that should be returning to the ground. And every time I hit the floor, that energy gets lost in the cushion instead of bouncing back through my body. It also raises my heel, which pushes my center of mass forward and takes my hamstrings and calves out of position. That's going to make it harder to stay stiff and reactive. So those are 2 things that are needed for high RSI. So next training session, I'll definitely consider using a flat, more stable shoe that lets me feel the floor. I just need every bit of energy going into the ground and coming right back, not getting lost in that foam in my shoe. Even just going barefoot would be more efficient for me. Okay, so now we've broken down the jumps and what went wrong. Let's talk about how we can actually fix it and how to train and improve RSI to get that spring back. The goal is really simple. Spend less time on the ground, get more force out of every contact. To do that, we need to build reactive strength. So the combination of stiffness, coordination, and elasticity that lets you load and explode. For me specifically, that means getting back to posterior chain work, reloading the hamstrings and glutes, building ankle stiffness, and teaching my body to stay balanced over midfoot instead of shifting forward. One thing I need to do is get better at absorbing force before exploding up. So 2 things I've been working on here, just implementing depth drops, left foot lead, right foot lead off of a smaller box, and then landing on 2. That way I can work on absorbing force and controlling my decel. The second one's really simple. It's just slower squats to control my eccentric. I'm also working on how to be quicker off the ground. So I need to teach my body to rebound faster. I can use pogo hops, ankle bounces, light depth jumps. I really enjoy pogo hurdles. They teach me how to punch off the ground instead of sinking into it. So each time I come into contact with the ground, there's quick stiffness through the ankles and calves, the same thing that drives a high RSI. The goal isn't just to jump high, it's to rebound fast and stay tall. Another thing I'm working on is building my posterior chain, so my hamstrings and glutes, to improve my jumping. I do really enjoy using RDL, but 2 of my go-tos are reverse hyper and glute ham. So reverse hyper is going to let me build that power through my hips without loading my spine too much. It teaches me that strong hip flexion that transfers directly into my takeoff. And then glute ham is going to help build pure hamstring strength through the whole range of motion, especially the eccentric phase. So the same one that loads up before you jump. The last thing I'll add is I'm trying to add stiffness to my training. So building that spring, I'm trying to keep my legs strong and reactive under pressure. And then one exercise I love implementing that is our isometric split squat holds. So just a split squat position, but you want your front heel off the ground in a sprinter position. Then you want to hold that for honestly any time, but I usually go 20 to 30 seconds each side. This is going to teach us that joint stiffness through the ankle, knee, and hip. So everything we just went over just comes down to one thing: getting more out of every contact. Improving RSI isn't just about jumping higher. It's about how fast you can load, store, and release energy. When your ankles stay stiff, your hamstrings stay loaded, and your body stays connected over midfoot, that's when you feel that snap. These exercises and drills can build that foundation, the stiffness, the control, and the timing that make you look more reactive and explosive. So the goal over time for me is to make every jump look effortless, like the ground is giving energy back to me, not just taking it away. So just to wrap things up, RSI gives us a real look at how reactive and efficient we are when we move. My first jump showed that quick, elastic response we want, but my last one, I lost tension and control. The takeaway: keep your body centered, your hamstrings loaded, and your legs springy. And then apply this to training. So from plyos to stiffness work, it's about moving cleaner, faster, and more efficiently. The more reactive you are, the more power you get back from the ground. So over the next few weeks, I'll be working on fixing those forward shifts, reloading my hamstrings, and sharpening that stiffness through plyos and isometrics. Then I'll come back, retest, and see how much my RSI improves. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.